let's create a new rule of our own because we got some new rules that came out of the owners' meetings. Actually, two pretty important ones. But we'll make some rules of our own. This new rules segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Okay, I'm going to go with the rule. I'll start off, and I'll go with the rule that actually was, I think, kind of close to. Actually, no, I think they ended up saying it wasn't close to passing, and that was instead of trying an onside kick, you get to try a 4th and 20. Like, I love this idea that you get to put the ball down with your offense, 4th and 20, and you have to convert. You have to convert a 20-yard play to get the ball back. Now, I don't know, Breach. I know we talked about this in the past, and I'm not sure exactly how it would work from a field position standpoint. I guess it's sort of like you would get it, like you don't get it like you started the 20. I guess you basically started the 25 or started the 30. If you convert because the odds of a 4th and 20 are really freaking small. You convert the 4th and 20, and then do you get the ball where the play ends? Because like, what if you hit like a 80-yard touchdown run, or is it just do you get the ball back and then you have to do a drive? I think that sort of stuff would be interesting. Maybe that's what makes it too convoluted for these NFL owners to deal with. But like, I love the idea of running the offense out there on a 4th and 20 with a chance to get the ball back. It would make NFL games wild as hell.
I wouldn't hate it. I mean, I don't know. It depends on how you feel about a certain issue in the NFL, and that is special teams. If you feel like you should just completely do away with it, then fine. Let's do the 4th and 20. Let's do the weird kickoff rules. Let's just let's basically eliminate this from the game entirely. If you want to keep the special teams aspect on there, fine. Then we'll just do a regular onside kick. We'll kind of go as everything's been going on. If you want to find a way to make it work in terms of field position, what if you would do 4th and 20, you convert, and then you get your ball at the 25. And if you don't convert, then the opposition gets it at their 45 or something like that. It has to be almost basically at midfield, so it's a real game changer where one play.
It needs to be similar to what the onside kick would be. Like,
right, exactly.
That's why I almost think you get it like wherever, like you started the 30 and you get it wherever the play ends. Or they get the ball at midfield, which is kind of like where, because you're saying, all right, we're going to give you the ball at midfield with a chance to, put this game away.
Right. Yeah. Because you can't treat it like a 4th down either. You know what I mean? Like, you can't treat it like, all right, turnover on downs right here. I just feel like that would be a little too convoluted.
Well, I don't think this would impact special teams really, because I don't think a team is just going to go out there and go for it on 4th and 20 from their own 20-yard line every time they score a touchdown, because the risk is too high. Under the rule that the Eagles proposed, and I'm guessing that's kind of what Brinson is referring to here, is if you start the snap at your own 20-yard line, if you gain 10 yards, you didn't get the 4th and 20, and now the defense takes over possession 30 yards from scoring a touchdown. So there's a high risk. There is a very big gamble to go for it on this 4th and 20. And the Eagles have been kind of the ones who have been pushing this the most. They've been tweaking it. The XFL rule was 4th and 15 from your own 25-yard line. And I think the NFL kind of thought, or the other owners, this is a little too easy. How can we change it? How can we make it more difficult? So they added 5 yards, made it 4th and 20 from your own 20-yard line. And I do think if they approve the new kickoff rule, which as of Monday hasn't happened, they might vote on it Tuesday. We'll talk about it later. They might table it till May. But the thing with that is if you approve that, I think you need this rule. You can't have this fake onside kick that they're trying to implement with this. When the XFL came up with this kickoff rule that the NFL's thinking about running, they did the 4th and 15 format because that's what makes sense with that rule. So
yes,
I agree with you, Brinson. I think I love this rule, and I would love to see it in the NFL.
Because you're basically taking with this new kickoff rule if they go with it, and it's also possible. We talked about this last week, but it's also possible that it ends up being like a preseason trial thing where they test out because they have no data for this kickoff rule. And they're usually pretty reticent about going in on a new rule with no data, especially for a full season. We saw it with the pass interference reviewable stuff, and they yanked it out of there really fast. So, I mean, like, I would not be shocked if the NFL owners decided to implement this on a temporary basis for the preseason, just to see what the data would be, and then circle back to it, or like you table it towards to May, and then try and figure out a way, like, because if you table it to May, you would actually get a month and a half of XFL information that you could use because the XFL starts in April. So I almost guarantee you that they do that.
XFL's not using this rule. They're not. They're going back. They're going back to the old kickoff. The USFL, I guess, whatever reason, it's not. They're not using it.
Okay. All right. Well, then Maybe
No help.
consider not doing it if they're not doing it. But yeah, I'm with you. I think if you do the new kickoff rule, you need to find a way for there needs to be a way for teams to try to reasonably get the ball back late in games. And I don't think the NFL wants to take away the excitement of this sort of stuff. The onside kick is just really dangerous.
Right. I mean, the more you can have your star quarterbacks on the field making clutch plays, that's obviously what the NFL is going to try to do. I mean, we're going to talk about, how they're leaning more offense with certain rule changes that they've already made. That would just be another step towards that. So again, would not surprise me in the least bit if all of a sudden we're talking about 4th and 20 onside kick kind of situations.
And that's the other thing is why not just put this as a preseason trial? We saw, Brenton, you mentioned the pass interference one, but I think from a special team standpoint, we saw it with the extra point. Owners were so uneasy about moving it back just 8 yards. And so they did a preseason trial and they said, all right, well, they're missing sometimes now, and they were never missing before. So let's roll with it. So I would think at least a preseason trial. I can't at least prove
with the extra point, did they do the preseason trial and then move it back the following year? Is that right?
I don't know if they did the preseason trial for 1 or 2 years, but it was definitely for at least 1 year.
But I think they did that because the way that it works is like if you do a preseason trial, you have to wait till the next season, I think, for it to actually kick in on a regular season basis, unless you build
right. Yeah, the trial separate from implementing the rule.
Yeah, like they were so, but I mean that's crazy. They were so unsure about it. They're like, let's do this for the preseason for 2021, whatever it was, and then if we like it, we'll run it for the preseason and full season for 2022 by ratifying at the owners' meetings the following year. Like it's crazy how conservative. I guess we shouldn't be shocked, but it's crazy how conservative they are with this stuff. Breach, naturally, you have a special teams related rule change you would like to make.
I do. Brenton has special teams trying to steal my thunder. My rule proposal is to make any field goal from 60 yards or longer worth 4 points. I think that would completely change the strategy on special teams, on a lot of things, because first of all, you don't see NFL coaches attempt a bunch of 60-yard field goals. It just doesn't happen unless it's at the end of the half or the end of the game. I mean, we just saw Brandon Aubrey in the year of our Lord 2023 kick the first ever 60-plus yard field goal in the first quarter of a game. No one had ever made one in the first quarter because coaches don't attempt it in the first quarter because there's too much risk involved. If you miss it, the other team automatically gains possession on your side of the field. So there's just so much risk that comes with it. And I think you reward that risk by tacking on an extra point, make it worth 4 points. And then I think we would see a few more kicks tried. The other thing about this is that 60-yard field goals are not easy. We rarely see these in the NFL. There were only a few kicked during the entire 2023 season. So I say, why not add a little bit of reward here?
What would be spicy with that too is if you get let's say it's a 3rd and 9 you're down 4 points. It's 3rd and 9. You're in 50-something range. Do you have your quarterback run a kneel down to get? It obviously depends on the time of the game, but knowing let's say it's late in the third quarter, or let's say it's midway through the fourth quarter, and you're going to get you're pretty confident you're going to get the ball back one way or another. Are you willing to have your quarterback drop back, kneel down, make it 4th and whatever, so that 4th and 15, or 4th and 14, whatever it is, so that now you have a 60-yard field goal opportunity to tie the game.
Now you're talking, Brinson. It could be that. It could be 3rd and 3 from your own 38, and you can either try and get the first down with 12 seconds left, and you're down 4 points, or you say, actually, we've got to take a knee here back to the 42 so that it's a 60-yard field goal.
Right.
Or exactly.
You could do something where you take the delayed game penalty, the 10-second runoff, you have 2 seconds left, you're booting it to tie it at 14 all or whatever you want to call it, 24 all.
Yeah, it's pretty spicy.
Going overtime. I would. It basically changes the entire late game play calling in certain situations, which I think would be fascinating. It's another way for us to rip coaches.
Okay. I mean, and we wouldn't rip them for the first year because it'd be all right,
because we'd be confused.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Should you go? Do you? Because it's again 3rd and 9. It's do you? I mean, even 3rd and 3, I guess too. It's do you you don't feel like you can't win with a regular field goal. You have to get 4 points or more. Do you feel more confident in your ability to pick up the first down and get a touchdown with 12 seconds left, or just drop back, take a knee, call timeout, and try and kick? I mean, so what is the distance for a 60-yard field goal? What was the hash mark? The 42
yard line.
Your own 40.
Or the other part of this is say you're at you because generally the snap to the holder's 8 yards back behind the snap or behind the line.
It's 17 or 18 yards.
The other part of this is say you're at the 40, the holder could set up at the 50, set up 10 yards back to make it a 6-yard field goal. So it would also change that strategy, but a lot of these teams wouldn't be practicing longer snaps. So that would also get a little dicey because now you're asking your short snapper to snap it at 10 or 11 yards instead of 8 yards. So there's even more strategy. I didn't even think about that one.
Well, that's something where, like, Bill Belichick, like, would have had, or like, maybe Mike Vrabel, I mean, neither coaching in 2024, this isn't a rule, so it doesn't matter, but like, would have had guys practicing the long, like the extra long snap or whatever it is. So, like, the ball, for a 60-yard field goal, the ball is at the 42-yard line. But you said your own 42. It's not your own. It's
the line of scrimmage would be your opponent's 42. You're 42 yards from scoring a touchdown. Snap goes 8 yards, gets held at the 50.
End zone is 10 yards, and it's yeah. So you could. So if you were on the, I'm just trying to do the math. Like if you were on like the 35,
down 4,
you could take a. You could take a like. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's it's crazy. There would be a lot of stuff mixed in with that. Sully, what's your rule change?
Mine's a very simple one, and it's more of an amendment to a rule that's already in place, just making pass interference a 15-yard penalty instead of the spot foul that it is. It's the number one thing that drives me crazy in the NFL. At the end of these games, quarterbacks just hike it up through the air, hoping they can draw pass interference, turns into flopping half the time, and all of a sudden it completely flips the field and changes the game. For automatic first down, 15 yards is totally fine for that type of infraction. I don't think we need to start flipping the field on just Hail Marys, basically, and what it is right now.
I would be curious to see the data on that and like the data and what like how often those occurred, like the underthrown incompletion that ends up being a 50-yard first down. It is really frustrating. It's like Joe Flacco was the king of them. But I wonder if you could do a thing where in the fourth quarter, pass interference is 15 yards. Now, the downside of that is you would have a lot of but you would have a lot of defensive backs just grabbing onto receivers and yanking them down on any sort of longer play, which is something that you don't see in college as much. And I think it's mainly because coaches it's not like you're like too worried, I think, that the college cornerbacks are gonna slip and fall. Like I feel like the NFL cornerbacks are so good at what they do that they would be just mugging receivers, especially under if they knew it was only 15 yards. Of course, maybe that 15 yards gets them in range for a 4.60-yard field goal. So who knows?
Well, I think the most interesting or the toughest part of that, because obviously this is the college rule, but in the NFL, I think the toughest part would be late game situations. Say you start a drive on your own 25 and you have 23 seconds and 1 timeout. Well, you throw a ball 30 yards downfield. The corner feels like he's beat by a step. Well, now you just tackle the receiver. You're only getting a 15-yard penalty. And as far as the current rules go, the clock still, whatever ticked off on that play still ticks off. So that team just lost 25% of the time that was left, and now they only gained 15 yards when they could have gotten 30. So I do like this is the type of penalty that I think could work because it is kind of crazy that pass interference is spot foul, but I do think it would have to be written in such a way to avoid situations like the one Brinson's alluding to and the one I'm kind of alluding to.
Yeah, it would need to be a situation where if it's clear and obvious that the cornerback – like if it's like two guys fighting for the ball,
but who gets to decide if it's clear and obvious? Like how obvious does it have to be?
Well, that's actually a great point. This segment, by the way, this new rule segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.